Is it better for children to be in daycare or to be at home with a stay-at-home parent? By the end of my speech, I hope that you can come to a conclusion that whether it be you or anyone you know in your family, um, that there are advantages and disadvantages to have a child attend daycare versus being a stay-at-home, being at home with the parent. Um, so whether or not you do or do not have children, one day you will come across the option, one of two options. Should I work and put my child in daycare or stay at home with my child? The reason this is important to me because I've been raised by a stay-at-home mom, um, and it changed how I wanted to raise my own children. Um, and even if you decide you don't want children and think you don't have to worry about this problem, you could someday have a job where you employ other people who have children and who use childcare. Um, or maybe someday, randomly in a grocery store or sitting on a park bench, you come across a stay-at-home mom. Um, you have this conversation, normal conversation with her. You can. Uh, it's best to see both views on this issue. I, for one, have been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, up until recently. I remember the day my last day of that job, I was very nervous, very scared. I didn't know what my future was going to hold. I didn't know if I was going to stay at home with my child. I didn't know if I was going back to work. Um, if I even could stay home with my child, if I could afford that. I did have my husband, but I didn't know if we could afford that. So because child care is so expensive, I feel as though many families do have to sacrifice and become a one income household, which in my case, that's what we did. We were a one income household for a very long time, and we did have to go without certain luxuries, and we didn't get to do too much because we only had enough for bills and nothing else. Like it was rough. Um, Daycare is very expensive. So let's begin by looking deeper into the cost of childcare and the mental health of a mom choosing to stay home and raise her child. Daycare is very expensive, like I said. According to a recent report from the U.S. Treasury, more than 60% of families cannot afford the full cost of high quality daycare. In the United States, per child spending doubled from 1970s to 2000s, according to a 2013 paper by a university professor. Parents spent more on education, toys, and games, but nothing grew faster than per child spending on childcare, which increased by a factor of 21 or approximately 2,000% in those 40 years. So whether you know if you decide you want to stay at home, will your family be able to survive on that one income? The rising cost of childcare hurts parents' job stability because they might have to leave early because their kid got sick or their kid is sick and they can't come to work, and it affects the employer. It affects everyone, and that's one of the main problems. Um, According to a study by Lisa Hamilton, where a household where caregivers had to make job changes because of childcare issues. 13% of children under the age of 5 live in a household where that happened, as opposed to 5 years ago, it was only 9%. So parents are having to change jobs to accommodate their kids' schedules or to accommodate, like, say, mom works at night, dad works during the day, so that someone's always home with the kids. Um, and then when that does happen, if you don't have that, alternating work schedule, then there was another report said that more than half of working parents with infants or toddlers reported having been late to work or leaving early in the previous 3 months due to child care issues, and 23% reported being fired for that. So that is awful. The United States is one of two countries in the entire world that does not offer paid family and medical leave. My husband, for instance, had medical leave, family leave, did not get paid for it. And that's time paid to care for our loved ones when they need us, to care for our babies, And that means people are struggling with that. The government does offer child care tax credits to help with child care assistance, but that only is for a certain demographic, and you have to make a certain amount of money or you won't be approved. There are tax credits that do help some families. But if you were a stay-at-home mom and you only had that one income, you could also find ways to work from home or, do like DoorDash, stuff like that, to help with the finances if you're struggling. That child care assistance that I mentioned is helping families go back to school to further their education. It says, according to the U.S. Health Department of Health and Human Services, 1.4 million children and 800,000 families received child care assistance in the fiscal year 2019. So, in conclusion, should you be forced to stay home with your child because of child care costs? Or should you have the freedom to decide to stay at home with your child? Because being a stay-at-home parent isn't for everyone. It isn't. So if ever you want to help others in need or keep the resources information in mind, if you're thinking of starting a family or if you know anyone in your family that extended family that might need assistance. But us as parents, we're tired, we're overworked, we're stressed out. Sometimes we do feel like the current system is failing us. And I don't think this should be a burden for us or a problem to solve. A lot of us don't have a village and we are barely making it out here.